Welcome to the Gotland Game Talk for project managers and the game design department at Uppsala University. My name is Lina Sors-Emerson. I'm your host here today. I'm also a researcher and a teacher in game design for project manager at Campus Gotland. This seminar series is actually part of the curriculum for students studying the bachelor program in game design and project management at Uppsala University. Saying this, I like to emphasize that this is an open seminar series and we are welcoming anyone interested that likes to join us. The format of this seminar is that we will have a 30-minute conversation, or I will have a 30-minute conversation with a guest about a pre-announced subject. This part of the seminar will be recorded and you can ask your questions in the chat to me and I will bring them to our guest. After 30 minutes, we will stop the recording and open up for a shared Q&A session, where you can continue to ask your questions in the chat or raise your digital hand and then unmute yourself to ask your question directly to our guest. During the autumn, the Gotland Game Talk for project managers will have several talk seminars, where different guests will share their knowledge, experience, and thoughts on management, leadership, coaching, and group dynamics. Basically, how to get things done, how to co-create ideas and bring them to life through a game. Today, our guest is Gabriella Hammarin, Technical Account Manager at King, where King is a leading interactive entertainment company for the mobile world, among others, creating the game Candy Crush Saga. I have invited Gabriella as a guest to talk about her professional journey, where she has entered the game industry with a background as an engineer and programmer, and with a love for and ambition to work as a project manager. I'm also looking forward to asking Gabriella what it means to work as a technical account manager in the game industry, and about her experiences, thoughts regarding group dynamics. That is what it takes to make a team work together to succeed with a project and deliver a game that people like to play and pay for. Welcome, Gabriella, to this seminar, to Uppsala University and to the game design department.
Thanks a lot, Lina.
It's good to see you again.
Yes, let's get started.
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
I would love for you to start to give us a little bit of background about you. Tell us a little about who you are and how your professional journey has looked.
Yes, so my name is Gabriella. I'm Swedish. I am born and raised in Uppsala and actually never left. I'm still in Uppsala today. I'm 34 years old and I was a student at Uppsala University, of course. So I have a master's degree in social-technical systems engineering, which is in Swedish civilingenjör i system i teknik och samhälle. I graduated in 2012. And by then I've always been a gamer, but I didn't have plans to work in the game industry until quite late. So by the time I graduated, I had no plans and I didn't take any game-related classes. It's an IT-focused program still. So my first job was actually as a tester at a telecom company. And then I worked as a backend developer at a site for a little less than 2 years. But I figured I want to do something different. It was cool to be a coder, but I had former experience in project management from various non-profit organizations. I had been at the Student Nations, I had been at UTN, for those who are familiar with that, and I had been running projects before. So I had this aim to be able to do that professionally as well. I also had started to realize what the game industry in Sweden actually is, and that it's something that actually exists. Pretty cool games are developed in Stockholm. Pretty big companies are in Stockholm. So I figured I should try to see if I could get in some way. So I applied to DICE originally. I might have applied to other places as well, but at least I got a job at DICE working. Since I had former experiences of working with tests, it was quite easy to come into DICE as a tester.
Could you tell us, I saw that I got an headlines here from that I was muted. Can you tell us a little bit what the tester is and what back end development is, and then a little bit more about DICE for that?
Right. So if I'm going to rewind a bit again, when I was a student myself, or before that, I had this vision that everybody was working at with the same things when you were at the workplace. Further, I studied, and when I started to work, I realized it's not like that at all. In a typical game development team, you might have like 3 programmers, 1 tester, 1 artist, 1 project manager, a data scientist, a UX designer, and someone else, depending on your needs. So there aren't just, I think I still had that view when I graduated, that there are programmers and there are project managers. Sure, there are project managers and coders, but there are also so many other roles to fill. So there's definitely a need for different niches. But tester is something that's important. All IT development teams should have 1 or more. But for games, it's incredibly important because we can't really force our product on anyone. We are very dependent on that the players love what we are doing. And for that, it needs to be, and how are we supposed to know that? We need to test it. We need to make sure that it's bug-free. We need to make sure it's fun, that it looks cool, that there are no spelling mistakes in the instructions, or that it's understandable. So there's essential to have people working solely with testing. Since if people don't like our game, they won't buy it, they won't play it. And then we're nothing. If you work with other types of IT systems, you might be able to, maybe they are forced to use your product because they need it for work or because someone else told them so. But for games, it's entertainment. We need to be good. So the game industry have more testers than the IT industry in general.
So you started at DICE then, and tell us a little bit what is DICE and how did you get the job at DICE?
Yes, so it's less common to go from being a developer to being a tester. It's usually the other way around. But I felt that it was, I liked testing. I liked being able to like talk about what I thought was important with gaming, and it wasn't always finding bugs and like troubleshooting. It was like, is it fun? Does this work? Is it good? So testing suited me well. That's why I was looking for that and not for coding jobs at game companies. DICE is one of the bigger ones in Sweden. It's owned by Electronic Arts now. It was already by then when I worked there. They're most famous for Battlefield, I suppose. So I worked on Battlefield, and I also worked on Star Wars Battlefront. We released Star Wars Battlefront 1, and the sequel number 2 wasn't released by the time I left, but it was in progress. Also a game called Mirror's Edge. I think we're about 800 people actually at DICE. I have a cup here with their logo, if you recognize.
So you started at DICE, you applied for a job as a tester at DICE, is that correct? And then you had no experience of the gaming industry at that point, is that correct? So how did that work out? I had lots of
experience of testing from other companies. So that's probably why they liked me, and also because I have been playing games since I was a kid.
For a long time. So you worked at DICE, and then how many years were you there, and did you have different kind of roles, and where did you go after DICE?
2 years at DICE. I was a tester. Tester is usually called QA, quality assurance or quality assistance. So I was a QA for 2 years. I didn't move roles really, I just moved teams. So first working with Star Wars and then with Battlefield 1. So a bit different scope, different needs, but same title. After that, I left. I was freelancing for a year after that. The problem with DICE is that they don't always hire you permanently. So I had a temporary contract, and when it ended after 2 years, I wanted to try out other things. But after a year of other things, I was ready to apply to King, and this is 5 years ago, and this is where I am now.
So what did you do during your freelancing time? What does it mean to be a freelancer in the game industry?
I wasn't in the game industry at all, actually. So I was doing small consultant gigs, like making web pages for people. I was doing a bit of everything. I did some graphic design. I was a sound engineer quite a lot, because that's a completely different industry, but they always need people. So I've been working with music events and event management as well. So that was a completely, it sounds like I had a plan. I didn't. That's why all the random gigs. I don't regret anything, but it took up a bit of everything what I was offered.
So how did you end up at King? Did you apply for a job at King, and what kind of job did you get, and what kind of job have you had at King's during these 5 years?
Yes, I applied to different jobs actually, because by then I had figured out that King was a pretty nice place to be. And I applied for a few like project manager jobs, and then I applied for QA testing. And of course, they were quite interested, because by now I had even more experience in testing. So they were interested, and they called me to an interview.
So when did you get to become a technical account manager, and what does a technical account manager do?
Yes, so I've been at King for 5 years. The first 3.5, I worked in the Soda team, Candy Crush Soda. If you don't know, there are 4 different Candy Crush games. The original one, Candy Crush Soda, Candy Crush Jelly, and Candy Crush Friends. So I was in Soda, I worked with testing for 3.5 years. But when they did a bit of a reorganization, they opened up, other opportunities could open up. So I was actually at Crash Bandicoot for 6 months in a role called operations manager. And then they did a reorg, and new opportunities appeared. And this is about a year ago, since I became a technical account manager.
So if you look at your different positions or the different kind of jobs you've done, like testing, technical account manager, QA is the testing. What other kind of jobs have you had within the game industry?
I think that's actually all.
So what is the difference between them?
Quite a lot. Since if you're working at a small gaming company, like indie company with 5 people or something, then you're probably more prone to do a bit of everything. The bigger company, you're likely to be more specialized. So at King, we have 2,000 employees-ish, probably more by now. We have people working specifically with testing for only one game. So you have a lot of focus, and you can even be a specific tester for certain features in the game. Since we have resources and the teams are large. I don't know what you would guess, but only on one of the Candy Crush games, there's more than 100 people working. And a bunch of those are testers, not a majority, but still.
So what are people doing?
What was the question originally?
Yeah, so like, what is the difference between a different kind of job? Yeah. But like, what if you mentioned that at King's, which is a huge company over 2,000 people, and 100 of them are working on one game. So what kind of different roles do we have there? What kind of different jobs or people are working on creating this game?
Yes, I think I've captured it quite well. So if you have a game team of 100 people, you can't really work with all of them on a daily basis. So that team is likely to be split up into smaller units of 10 people working on a certain feature, maybe. So your team could consist typically, what did I say, about 3 coders, 1 tester, a project manager, a data scientist, an artist, a UX designer, and whatnot. So the typical setup is that you might be the only tester in your team, or the only project manager or scientist. If you're a coder, you're likely to have friends. But you also interact, of course, between those teams. But you can't meet all the hundreds on the same day.
So how is
So
it
it's
held
quite
together? So how do you get like a shared, how do you all work towards the same goal? How is it organized, the work, to make everybody strive for the same thing?
Yes, so something that's very important in most IT companies, there is agile development. It's not a word that I knew about as a student, but if you don't know about it, I would read up on this if I were you. Agile development. And I don't think I can summarize that in a good way, very brief, but there are different kinds of methodologies within that. One of the most common is called Scrum. We don't necessarily do Scrum, proper Scrum, but there's one very popular methodology that sets up a framework for what kind of meetings you have on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, what checklists you need, and types of project management. And typical for King is to have one person within every team that only facilitates meetings. That's called a Scrum Master or Agile Coach. So if you're an Agile Coach, you make sure that the team have team building, that they have daily meetings if needed, that they update each other, that they have the channels they need to communicate. So you can actually work full time with only that. And that's a little bit more like what I do now. I don't work with testing anymore, since I work across several game teams. I can still do testing. I have a couple of test devices around me here on my table. We're still very involved with the game development, but there is, in such large organization, there's lots of work to be done.
I know that King as well as DICE, they have values that are very important for the organization. I like to bring us into group dynamics and how these organizations and what your opinion are on how to actually work together as a team. What is important? How is it done? Are there any frameworks, or what do you really think that people need to think about to get successful games on the market that people like and pay for?
Yes. So actually, it differs. Now I've been to several different companies, both game companies and others. I have noticed how different they can be. So the company can do a lot to affect the team spirit or the efficiency of the teams. One reason I liked working at DICE, and it was so cool games and so cool people and so much talent, but I didn't fit in as good as I think I do at King. DICE was more focused on results, and when you can see when you enter the office, everything is dark and shiny and very fancy. They have a beer tap and they have guns on the walls. Not real guns, but game guns. At King, when you step into King's office, everything is colored and friendly, and there is smiling characters and things that are painted like my Zoom background now. And there's candy all over the place. So I fit in much better at King than I did at DICE. And also something that I noticed that at DICE, I didn't really know what the company values were. King have more focused on having those team coaches. So suddenly everybody actually knows the company values. And I think that makes a difference, because there's always, all companies have values. They're written on, maybe on some wall somewhere, or you read them in your welcoming letter your first day when you start work, and then you never hear about them again. But for King, they have actually managed to embed them. So you can see, we have them on the walls, but we also have them on stickers. We have them on little icons in Slack, and they are formulated very well. So all of them are word pairs, easy to remember. Let's see if I can make a fool up to myself. It's fun and friendly, humble and open, care and craft, passion and performance, fast and fluid, creative champion. Yes, I actually remember. But fun and friendly is the one I like most. King actively hires people we're looking for people that are fun and friendly and humble and open. And I think that makes a difference. To have people willing to help out, willing to help each other. I know that I can reach out to anyone of my colleagues and they say, yes, I can help you.
So we have a lot of coming project managers or students who are studying game design and project management here. So how is the management organized in bigger companies and smaller companies in the game industry? What can they expect when they come out? What kind are they, like hierarchical with different levels, or is it a flat organization, or how does it practically work, and what are your experiences?
For King, it's significantly flat. And it's a very casual atmosphere. I wrote my master's thesis at a bank, and then even the developers were like shirt and suit. In the gaming industry, you can see people in pajamas pretty much. At least t-shirts and hoodies are common. And I could probably step up to the president of the company and talk to him. I haven't. I don't know him that well, but if I wanted to, I could. And I feel that would be okay, and he would probably be fine with some random project managers jumping onto him. Maybe even happy that I would be talking to him. But I have noticed that this is quite. I have never been working abroad, but I have got the impression that this is quite a Swedish thing. People come. We have. I don't dare to say that Swedes are a minority at King Stockholm, but we are maybe half of people come from other countries. I'm a little bit guessing now, but it's a very diverse in terms of where people are from. It's from all over the world. I have Brazilian colleagues, Romanian colleagues, Chinese colleagues, Danish colleagues. You get the point. I realize I'm drifting a little bit now as well.
So let's bring us back a little bit to the group dynamics. The course the students are taking is very focused on group dynamics. What is a good team member, and what is a good project manager in your opinion and your experience?
Well, to tie it back in, I really appreciate the flat organization and that I can talk to any manager about things that are important to me, and that they take time for me. That makes all the difference, rather than if I'm in a company where I don't dare to speak when the manager is in the same room. I have been in those environments as well, and that didn't really help me. If you don't dare to call out problems, then you have a huge problem within the organization. Especially for minorities, they are struggling as it is. And I'm quite used to being the only woman in the team. I'm not at the moment, and that's great. And I'm just a part of one minority. It's probably worse for people who are a part of more than one. So you need to have this friendly environment even to get anywhere. And in the end of the day, it affects the players, how we work together and what we produce. If we are doing something that seems completely wrong, I need to be able to call it out. We have had oopsies in the past regarding cultural appropriation in the game, or regarding various problems that's making community posts with jokes that weren't too funny. And I just wish that someone had been able to call that out earlier. I don't think there's anything online still, but everybody makes mistakes. But we catch a lot of problems before they go live. And I really appreciate that, especially when you're working as a QA. The tester is usually not the highest paid in the team, and it's usually maybe not the highest status either. But if you have the mandate to be able to talk to anyone, you can still do a much better job than if someone just consider you the low status tester somewhere. So that everybody can talk to each other. That's something that's essential, I think.
So what is a good team, and what is a good team member?
Yes, diverse, a good team. And a good team member is someone that takes. I always take time to help when someone asks me, even if I don't even know the answer. But it helps the group all together if you are looking out for each other, and also try to. Since we're doing creative development as well, you need to be able to don't kill people's inspiration. Don't shoot down. Don't be negative. Don't shoot down their ideas, or you won't get any more ideas from them. It's so easy to kill the entire team spirit if you're not careful in the creative development. So that and I had something else there. What was it? Sorry, I lost.
So let me throw in a question then. How is a successful team defined?
That would depend a lot on who you ask. There are people in this industry who counts everything in dollars regarding to success, and there are people counting in number of players, in happy players, in happy employees. So many benchmarks. For the team, at the end of the day, I think it needs to be sustainable. That even if you manage to throw out a new super fancy feature tomorrow, everybody works overtime, that's not sustainable in the end, because people are going to leave the team or leave the company even, or stay but be unhappy, which doesn't really lead anywhere. So it might even be better to postpone a deadline or so and not crunch, which is a word for overtime.
It's regarded as very successful if you have to crunch because you are, super important.
Yes, depends on how you measure success. I haven't been crunching a lot. I have been in good places, and I consider that success.
So, what are the essential skills to develop for students about group dynamics to empower their success as future professional game designers and project managers? So really, what do you think they should focus on developing and learning?
Right. Okay. I have two takes on this. And the first one is that something I learned as a tester is that if you look for problems, if you look for issues, if you look for faults, you will find them. If you look for bugs, you will find bugs. The more people you have looking for bugs, the more bugs they will find. And that also applies to people. If you are looking for problems or issues with what someone's saying, you will find them. But if you look for opportunities, you will also find them. So look for opportunities and try to see the positive in people's ideas and what they do. That's my main advice. Another thing is that when you're in school as a student, you're usually having the same role, and you're the same type of person, and you do the same tasks. And that can be a struggle because someone is doing more work and someone is doing less, and it's hard to know what to do, and it's prone to conflict. So I was a bit worried about group work when I started working. But at the workplace, you're usually having very defined roles. So, and that lot less conflict, I'd say, when you know what to do, and you know that she's doing the code, I'm doing the testing. They're doing the data science measurements. And then you see each other, what they contribute with things that I'm not able to give. I'm contributing with something that for them. And we also having a lot of respect for each other's competences is a great thing, and take opportunity of them and see what they can bring and allow them to bring it to the table. It helps. I don't know if you always had opportunity to do so in a school project, but if you can define that early, who's doing what and who brings what, and the opposite, what they don't do, I think that could help. And also respect that the person who might be the official leader might need to be able to take decisions sometimes. And sometimes it's a democracy, and sometimes it's not.
So you have worked both in the game industry and within other industries. What are the differences, and what I suspect that you love working in the game industry since you're there. So what is the big bonus of working in the game industry in comparison to the other ones?
I love that it's so creative and creative people around me. I love having artists around me, because if you enter a meeting room and you see pile of post-its when they have done some incredible art suddenly, and everything becomes colorful and friendly. It's so much talent. So I really appreciate that for my selfish reasons. There's also lots of fun, and to be honest, there's lots of money in the industry. I don't know what numbers I can share even, but you would be surprised how much digital candy that people buy. So we can, and King is very good on investing in its staff. There are fancy offsites, there are gifts. We can get there's lots of perks to be had, to be honest. That's still not the main reason why I'm in the industry, but you get lots of swag. It's here, have a coffee cup, have this. I have like boxes of goodies, and there's travel, and there's free beer if you like that. At DICE there was lots of free beer. At King there's lots of free cake. Another reason why I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. It's time for us to go to the Q&A session for us to turn off the recording. But before, I like to announce the next game talk for project managers that will be in 2 weeks. That is the 23rd of September. It will be Garrett Avery, an American innovation management consultant who is active in the startup community in Berlin. He helps innovation teams around the globe to stay aware of what is important in their external and internal environment to bring the best resources, that is their people and their ideas, to life continuously. So Garrett and I, we will tackle and talk about how to get things done and co-create ideas and bring them to life. So thank you, Gabriella, for joining us here in this first session and sharing your thoughts and experiences of the game industry. And we will now stop the recordings and go into a Q&A session. And I have lots of great questions for you coming up.